Zillow stopped buying houses. Zillow used to make home buying decisions based off of computers and AI. Computers and AI, those are smarter than humans. If that's the case, do these Zillow computers know something that we don't? What's up guys, it's Avery here. Today we're going to take a deep dive into Zillow and real estate. And if this is your first time on the channel, I like talking about personal finance, real estate investing tips, and things that you can do with your money in order to build your wealth. And if that sounds cool and you're interested in learning more about real estate, make sure you stick around and you might learn a thing or two. Zillow is something we are all quite familiar with, unless you've been living under a rock. And like many iBuyers, Zillow has been attempting to buy a lot of property in the last 18 months and pretty much attempt to sell it right away for profit without doing virtually anything to the property, which has gone quite well for them because, as we all know, real estate and stocks only go up. And because that was the case for the last 18 months, Zillow had been making a lot of profit. But recently they announced this past week that they were going to stop purchasing homes. And if you look through some of the homes that they've purchased, no longer were they able to just list them for $30,000 to $40,000 more than what they were paying for. They were having to sell them at a discount because their AI and software thought, maybe this isn't such a good idea anymore. Before Zillow started doing this, they made money traditionally by getting leads to real estate agents and giving money and business their way. This meant that the real estate agent would have to give Zillow a portion of their business. And because many people would look at homes on Zillow and they didn't have real estate agents or the ability to find a real estate agent, Zillow made it easy for them, and then agents were able to get leads from these people wanting to purchase or sell their homes through Zillow. So it really made it easy for sellers and buyers and real estate agents to meet one another while Zillow got a cut without having to do basically anything other than have an easy platform to look for homes. And in this scenario, Zillow had virtually zero liability when it came to the purchase of the home. It was really only the seller, the buyer, and the real estate agent who had to handle the transaction. Zillow just got a cut for being a middleman essentially. In my opinion, this is a very easy, automatable, simple business strategy to make a lot of money for Zillow and have very little liability. But like Zillow, they wanted a bigger market share, and they wanted to be like Amazon because being a monopoly and owning the entire marketplace is what many companies are trying to do. So Zillow went from being the person who was just giving leads to real estate agents and skimming a little bit off of the top to trying to be an all-inclusive, one-stop shop home buying platform. They didn't want to be just the place where you scroll through properties knowing you can't afford them. They wanted to be the place where you could find a lender, find an agent, sell and buy that property through Zillow, and then they could also flip it themselves and buy and sell them at a profit. They wanted to do everything when it came to real estate. They did no longer want to be a middleman in the process. They wanted to be the Zillow man. So you've learned about Zillow, you know what's going on, and you understand that in the last week they decided to stop buying property. And that's because they were just trying to buy as much property as possible and then sell all of it at a profit without basically doing anything, which is a great thing to do if you can. But in this case, they did not have a great zestimate or ability to know what the actual price of a home was because they can't get into a home. They don't understand all the specific nuances of a home, so they were ending up losing some money on properties. Now, their hope was because they could gain such a massive market share and buy enough property that this wouldn't matter. They would have some losses, but they were banking on the fact that they would mostly have gains. And this worked a lot in the last 18 months, but because home prices have not been skyrocketing as much, things have slowed down and their business model is not working as well, so they've decided to stop. And this has freaked out a lot of people. Coupled with interest rates rising, they're thinking that there's going to be a crash and something wrong is going to happen. And especially if an iBuyer like Zillow is no longer buying property, there definitely has to be something wrong. So people are freaking out, and like I said, coupled with interest rates rising, this is making people freak out even more. Does Zillow know something? Is there something wrong? Is there going to be a crash? These might all be questions running through your head, and this might make people withdraw more. And this is kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. Many market crashes throughout the history of the world have happened through self-fulfilling prophecies. If people start selling off and withdrawing themselves from the market and just trying to hold onto their cash, there's going to be less money available and less deals happening, and that's just going to decrease the value of real estate and markets in general. And this is a self-fulfilling prophecy because people have been expecting a crash for the longest time. since 2014, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, literally every single year, people have been expecting a market crash. And now it feels like it's been so long, and the recent recession that we had was only from February or March of 2020 to April of 2020. It was the shortest recession ever, and it feels like we are in this crazy bubble, and that recession was almost fake. But on paper, it was a recession. And now it feels like there's nowhere to go but down, because we've just been going up and up and up. But a lot of the background statistics and numbers make it seem like housing is strong. But the thing that might create a shift in housing is because everyone thinks that there should be a shift in housing. As humans, we are very emotional creatures. We make many decisions based off of our emotions and not based off of science and math, reason and logic, and those things that make a lot of sense to others around us and me. But when it comes crunch time, we tend to freak out a lot and not hold our ground. And this is something that could definitely happen with news like this. If an iBuyer is no longer buying property, then maybe you shouldn't buy property. Maybe you were already waiting for a crash, and now you're definitely waiting for a crash because of something like this. And more people may withdraw, and then you might see inventory increase and demand lower. And just because of those two things and simple economics, home prices will decrease. And because of the 2008 home crisis and then real estate prices going so low, and then they've just been increasing for the last decade and a little bit more, people keep thinking we are on the precipice of a crash. And they're looking for signs, and they're seeing signs, and then this is a sign that they're seeing. And then here is another sign. I'm a big data and numbers guy, and there is really no reason for a market crash when you're just looking holistically at the market, purely based off of supply and demand. We still have a crazy shortage of home and housing that is needed for people to live in, and there is still a lot of demand of people who are unable to buy a house in the last year and a half that want to purchase homes. So just for those reasons alone, I don't think that there would be a crash, and I've said this before, but I think because of people wanting to have a crash or expecting there to be a crash, and knowing that market cycles often happen, and that the recession of 2020 because of the pandemic didn't really feel like a recession, it still hasn't felt like we've had a crash, and we're expecting something bigger on the horizon. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, if you think Zillow is being smart, waiting it out and seeing if there's going to be a crash so that their new business model will make more sense, or if they're just being stupid and more people are now going to continue to be stupid, but then they will actually create a crash in the long run, or there just won't be a crash in general. I'm curious to hear what you guys think, and I know that this will not really matter for my strategy of purchasing stocks or buying rental property, because I plan to just dollar cost average both of those things. If I continue to buy both for the remainder of my life, they will increase as time goes on. And that's not advice, and that's not a guarantee, but I guarantee it to myself at least. So make sure you do your own due diligence, but if you just continue to buy as the market cycles go on, you're probably going to be just fine. So if you guys found any value in that, make sure that you go ahead, hit that subscribe button and like the video if you haven't done so already. I'd really appreciate it, and tap that notification bell if you want to hear more. And if you want to hear even more, go ahead, check me out on Instagram, where I like to make reels daily about this kind of stuff and just give you great advice about how you can build your wealth for free on the daily. So thanks again for watching. Hope to see you guys next time. More wealth is coming your way.